All right, let's talk about Francis Ngannou, because Francis Ngannou did an interview that was very notable. And this is, I'm telling you right now, I love this kind of video. I'm going to get to talk about the fight business. I'm going to get to talk about a contract negotiation. I'm going to talk about what Francis is asking for. Like, this was a fascinating interview because it was so much different than what other fighters sound like when they are negotiating a contract. Now, I think we have rare insight into what's at play in this particular contract negotiation, because we know all of the relevant factors for the most part. At least we thought we did. And now we know what Francis is asking for. And there's a lot, and it goes well beyond what he's asking for himself. Very notable. In addition to that, he said something, which I'll talk about, a couple things that he said that he wants for all fighters. And then my first instinct was, they're never going to give you that. First of all, they're never going to do that. But then I started thinking about it, and believe it or not, I actually have a pretty strong strategic mind for this kind of thing, where it's like, okay, well, this is a problem to solve. You have two parties that, this one wants this one, this one wants this one. How do we get them to a place where they can kind of, is there any reason why this one would negotiate if they have all of the leverage? And if there is, how do you make it to where you get to like a happy compromise where everybody's happy? And I have a pretty good idea on that one. A really good idea, actually. But anyway, if you like the content, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell. If I don't ask, then people don't do it. And also, if you don't mind liking this video, go ahead and do that. And then, or you could just like it when I say something that you're like, oh, wow, nice take, dude. And I have a feeling that's going to be most people, that have an IQ over 11, which is basically all of my viewers. So anyway, so here's the deal. So Francis said, first of all, that the UFC has not reached out to them at all. Like there's been like no conversations between them whatsoever. And that was, notable, obviously, because you have Francis, who is going to be a free agent in December. And you know that on the other side of free agency, that he has this incredible opportunity, probably the biggest opportunity that he has the biggest opportunity that any UFC facing free agency has ever had. And that's the Tyson Fury fight. And there's nothing hypothetical about it. They have both been in the boxing ring in Wembley Stadium and said into a microphone together that they want to fight each other. And when Francis started talking about doing business with the UFC, Tyson Fury tweeted out, "What's up, dude? I thought we're fighting." Like there's nothing, there's no imaginary world where this is a bluff. It's real. Now, again, let me just say this before. Everybody says, well, of course, why wouldn't he do that? Canelo just made $60 million this weekend and Triple G made like 25. Of course he's going to do that. Right. But then you got to ask yourself, if it's that simple, then why isn't the UFC talking to him? If the UFC hasn't reached out to him, why? Right? There has to be something else. Again, this is what I do. Strategic, And if you were listening really close to one of my recent videos, they probably should have thought of that in advance, Like, if someone decided like we should pick that guy inexplicably for no reason, probably should have been paying attention to my YouTube, and then you would have understood like, probably not a good guy to pick, as they may or may not have recently found out. Anyway, so yeah. But bottom line is, UFC has to be thinking something else. And what I would guess they're thinking, hypothetically, if they are not concerned enough about this deadline that they're reaching out to Francis, they've got 3 months, is there has to be some reason that they think that they can't do it without them, right? Like there's some kind of thing about putting on, I don't know. This is the part where my data gap is huge, right? Like you have to know when you don't know things. And I definitely do not know the status of Tyson Fury's contract, what it actually entails to put on a show like they would be planning a boxing match in MMA gloves in a unique rule set with an infrastructure like capable of absorbing 2 million pay-per-views or 1 million pay-per-views, whatever it is, right? Like I have no idea how those contracts work really. I know there's a handful of people, and so if the UFC has a vice grip on the main one, as an example, like I don't have any idea if this is accurate, but let's just say it's Showtime and Showtime has this contract, whatever, and UFC has someone in the Showtime, corporation or at the top of the executive, org chart that can kill that deal if they ask them to. That's a pretty big trump card, dude. It's like, well, you need this. Here's the main one. I just took that away. Now what are you going to do? Now what are you going to do? I have no idea if that's the case. But that's it. Like, maybe there's something having to do with actually putting on the show that the UFC is not confident they'll be able to do on their own. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, Canelo Alvarez made a base of $45 million this weekend, right? Triple G made a base of $20 million before they got into the bonuses, which I heard the estimate is that, Canelo is going to land at like 60 and Triple G, whatever, more than 20. Now, if you're Francis Ngannou and you have total freedom as of, call it January, I mean, if that story is interesting to me, right? How interesting do you think it's going to be to Francis and his team? Probably pretty interesting, right? And if someone comes up to them and they go, look, listen, Francis, the reason we don't want to do this fight, I'm just going to give it to you straight, Francis. I think that our communication lines have gotten broken, right? I think our communication lines have gotten broken, okay? We may have done some things that seemed like we were being disrespectful, didn't value you. We were trying to press our leverage position so you would re-sign with us. You should take that as a compliment. The reason we did that is because we were complimenting. That's how valuable you are to us. This is how this is the conversation I would have. Hypothetically, if they fucked with his visa or something like that, or other things that he might have taken personally where he's like, dude, what the fuck's up with these guys? I would say, listen, man, look, you think this stuff is personal? You weren't re-signing. You are that valuable to us that we're forced to do stupid stuff like that. You think we want to do that? You think that if you were in a long-term deal with us that we would do that? Of course not, man. We want to take care of you. But we also want to know that we're going to be in this family working together. And so let's just forget about all that stuff. Let's figure out a way that we can move forward and make money together. That's what we're all here to do. And then after I had that conversation, I would be like, and here's my concern about doing a Tyson Fury fight. All due respect, okay? If Tyson Fury steps into an octagon with you, you're going to fucking smash him into a million pieces. If you guys fight outside of a bar, you're going to smash him into a million pieces. If you guys go and you get into a grappling match, you're going to smash him into a million pieces. If you go into a boxing ring and box him, you have no fucking chance. Like, when I say no chance, I mean no chance. You cannot win. You will not win. Unless he breaks his leg on his way to the ring, you're not going to win this fight. And he's going to hurt you before he finishes you because you're a tough fucking guy. And we don't want to put you in that position. We don't want to risk your health. We don't want to risk your brand as the heavyweight champion. That's not a good look for us. It's just not a good look for us. Like, you're the heavyweight champion. You, whether you like it or not, are representing the UFC now, right? Like, you have the belt. We gave you that opportunity and now you're wearing it. I understand why you're leveraging it into what you're trying to do, but we have to consider the company and the optics. If you go in there and you get pieced up and knocked out by Tyson Fury with absolutely, no feed, like there's almost no back and forth, which is highly likely to happen. It's boxing. It's Tyson Fury. He's like the greatest boxer of all time. Then how does that affect us? It affects us very poorly. And then what I wouldn't say to him, and I'd be like, and also, if we help you do that, and everybody finds out that you made $35 million for the fight on the low end, then every fighter is going to be beating our door down to do that too. And then they're all going to be trying to figure out their sunset clause and trying to get out of their contracts and blah, blah, blah. Like, look, we have to protect the business. You're putting us in a really, really difficult position. Like, let's say that they had that conversation, right? I mean, that's your best bet, I would say, in this spot, at least right now. And then Francis will say something like, I understand. And then he's going to go, but Canelo made $60 million this weekend. And, Triple G made 25. And I understand your position, but like, you think I won't take a walk down to, and take the long shot that I win the fight for $40 million? What's your offer? Like, what are you offering me? What's the offer for the UFC, the re-sign with the UFC? Well, we'll give you this, huge offer that's going to equal, $8, $9, $10 million per fight. If you're the champion, because that's where you're going to come back to. You're going to be like, yeah, but this is hinging on me retaining the belt, right? The only way that I can match that money over there is if I win 3 times, right? Like, I need to win 3 times here on the low side without losing. Not like win 3 fights. I need to win 3 fights consecutively when I come back. And let me ask you this. What happened if I go this fight? These fights are still there. I go fight Tyson. I come back. Those fights are still there. And then they're going to say, well, no, they're not actually. those are not there. And then, the back and forth. It's all about who needs who less. Well, that's fine. I'll just retire after this. Like, it's not an easy spot for the UFC, for sure. That's why I think on a certain level, they have to be trying to figure out a way where they can let him box, because he said in his interview that just objectively, like, he's not going to sign if they won't figure out a way to enable him to box Tyson Fury. Now that, in my opinion, is the less interesting part of his interview, because the other thing that he said that fighters are all very insecure because they don't have healthcare. He wants fighters to have healthcare. And, the first time that I heard that he was asking for this, obviously, before he said it, like, in an interview, like, I knew about that. And, like, my initial thought on it was that's something they're literally never going to do. Like, they are not going to do that. They're just not going to do that. They're not going to give healthcare to the fighters. And I was saying that thinking that the cost would be astronomical, right? Like, that would be an astronomical cost to the UFC. And then I actually sat down and ran the numbers, and I was like, dude, this actually is not that much money. It's really not. Like, if you guys went and played around with the numbers, say like the healthcare that the UFC would be providing and say that the average UFC fighter, let's say half of them have a family, the other ones don't. I mean, the average monthly cost would be like probably $1,000 to the company, something like that. They got 600 fighters? You guys are smart. Go ahead. Do the math. You're talking about sub $10 million a year to do fighter healthcare. That's not that much money. So maybe. But my thing is, I bet you that the reason they really don't want to do that is because it would fuck with their independent contractor status. Okay. As of now, UFC fighters are independent contractors. They are not employees of the UFC. UFC is a show business company. They call independent contractors. Hey, you want to be a part of this show? We're going to pay you this much, per your contract, your exclusive contract. They come in, they do that. Who knows how that would stand up under, legal scrutiny, but that's the way it is. And so maybe giving healthcare would be a challenge to that. I have no idea. But the other thing, the thing I had no idea about, literally, like, I'd never heard this. I'd never heard this anything. The first time I heard it was in that interview. Was he wanted to talk about fighters being able to bring in their own sponsors. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, that was like, I've heard like Schaub say it on his show. I've heard a bunch of other fighters say it, that like, that was like the end of their career, because they were making like they're making over $100,000 a fight on sponsorships, which in many cases eclipsed their UFC pay. And then UFC shut it down, and then they ran everything through the Reebok deal, and then ultimately the Venom deal. And I think the Venom and Reebok deal are kind of the only brands the UFC's, fighters will wear on their person are this brand, Venom or Reebok or whatever. I mean, dude, I have a fucking Venom, jiu-jitsu gi. Probably a direct result of them wearing Venom. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty susceptible to fucking advertising, so it's probably a valuable spot. But the sponsors thing, and so I had actually never considered the sponsors thing through this lens, and only because I hadn't really thought about it very much. But Francis said, I understand the UFC doesn't want all these random advertisers that they have no control over. Like, remember, they used to wear Condom Depot and shit. Like, Condom Depot was on everybody's fucking, like, the ass of everyone's fucking shorts. It's like, I get it, dude. Like, the UFC is a professional organization now. Reebok looks a lot better than fucking Condom Depot. I understand that. And that's where I just started thinking about this issue in general. And I was like, okay, so what is a possible solution to this problem, right? Like, where's it at? Because here's the deal. This is where, this is kind of the layers that I'm thinking through, right? So Michael Chandler said that he does not make more for his fights in UFC than he did in Bellator, okay? But he says he makes more money because of his spot in UFC external. Okay, well, Michael Chandler is a motivational speaker. Like, he's not a normal person. Like, he's like a very high functioning guy. Like, he's a very high functioning guy who happens to be a fighter, right? So his ability to leverage his platform is not the same as other people's. So you can't just kind of point to him and go, look, man, look at what you can do. Look at Sean O'Malley. These guys are, well, it's like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't really apply to 98% of the other of the fighters, honestly. Like literally 94, 95, 96% of the fighters, right? But here's where that changes, is if the fighters are able to sell their ad space, or sell ad space and their visibility that they get through UFC. UFC has the most visibility. It's the largest platform. Got it. And they don't want anyone to have, just random bullshit on their jerseys or on their shorts or whatever. So what I thought of is like, well, what if the way that they approached, I don't know the details of the Venom deal. I don't know the details of the Reebok deal. I have absolutely no idea. What I do know is that the UFC both wanted to control what was on there and also was like, we own all this. We own the cameras. We own the fucking octagon. We own these motherfucking fighters. Although you don't, they're independent contractors. You don't, if they're independent contractors, but like, this is all ours. So fuck that. They can't just, I don't care how much they're getting paid. Like, this is our shit. They're using our shit in order to get their message out. No. So what if what they did instead was the UFC approved certain places that you could sell sponsorship? So it would be uniform, right? Like, it looks the same on everyone's shorts. Like, you could sell this spot. You can sell this spot, right, on the shorts. Or you could sell this. You can have a banner on the back. Like a uniform thing where everyone is selling the same stuff. You can wear, a shirt afterwards that looks the same. And the UFC has to approve the brands. So you have to get onto the UFC's approved brand list to be able to advertise with any of the fighters, right? And there's a fee associated with that. And the sponsorship goes through the UFC, and the UFC takes, call it, I don't know, 20, 30, 40%, whatever it is. That way, as guys become more visible, right? And their brand becomes more valuable, the UFC makes more money, right? Again, I don't have any idea what the details of the Venom deal are, but the only way I could think of the UFC or the fighters getting sponsorships back is if it's structured like that, where there are certain places on their shirts, on their shorts, banners that they could sell, and the advertisers have to be approved through the UFC. If they're not approved, they can't be on there. They pay a fee just to be approved, and it's an annual fee. Let the UFC fucking just, fuck these advertisers. Not fuck them, but make money. And you want to know what that does? That keeps fucking Condom Depot out of even an application. I mean, they obviously would not approve that anyway, but you're only going to get big brands. If you got a big, like the way that DraftKings cornered the market in daily fantasy, the real way that they cornered the market was when all of the states started making daily fantasy illegal, which is what, partially fucking killed us. We got acquired by a company, oh fuck, we're getting acquired for $8.5 million. Like, awesome. We're rich. Well, I mean, no, actually, I thought it was a complete and total fucking loss because I thought we were going to be DraftKings when my show got on television. And anyway, it's neither here nor there. But then once this company got, like the CEO had this whole scandal, stock went to zero. I still own my technology. I think technically I didn't, but I was like, fuck it, dude. These guys fucked us. I'm just going to take my technology and let's just fucking run. What are they going to do, dude? These guys have a billion creditors after them. You think they're going to come after me because I took my own software that they fucking stole with fake stock that just went to zero and then went and ran my company? But what happened was then all of the fucking states started making it illegal, right? And in that process, which should have been bad for everyone, it ended up being good for DraftKings because what they did is they spent the money necessary to go and lobby all these different states. All their competitors lost their funding because who's going to put money into a fantasy sports company that is only allowed to operate in fucking 20 states? Like, who would do that, right? And simultaneously for future startups, they negotiated in all of these states that, because the states made it legal again in exchange for additional tax revenue and a $50,000 license in each state, right? So like that's part of the plan that they implemented. There's like a $50,000 or $60,000 license fee in each state, okay? So for DraftKings, when you have to do that in 20 states, do that. It's not very much money, man. It's not that much money for DraftKings, and they go pay it. And what they've just done is single-handedly eliminated all of their competition, right? And so basically the UFC does the same thing. They make it an expensive license fee, and there's not going to be any like bullshit sponsors, and they'll be able to bump the annual fee. All these advertisers are going to be paying just to be able to advertise with anyone. Maybe that ends up eclipsing the Venom deal. I don't know. I don't know the details of the Venom deal. But At the very least, that way you're splitting it with the fighters. The fighters can be going out and negotiating, these sponsorship deals. And let's say somebody who's not savvy, like they're just not a savvy person, they're just like, all they know how to do is fight. The UFC's like, all right, well, we'll give you sponsors, but you only keep fucking 20% of those, you lazy fuck, Like you only actually get to keep 20% of this because we're doing it for you. If someone goes out and they negotiate the deal themselves, then whatever. Anyway, I don't know. Now I'm just kind of rambling. But that's what I would do. And I think Francis, thinking about the fighters, is very commendable. But there's a lot of complexity there. Anyway, that's what I got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, peace.